In the last 10 years, I've helped hundreds of women to be able to transform their marriage literally from the brink of divorce, even when it seemed completely hopeless. And so if you give me 9 minutes of your time now, I'm going to explain to you a 3-step formula that can completely change the trajectory of your marriage. And before we dive in, let me prove to you that the system actually works. Take, for example, my client Laurie. Her and her husband were on the brink of divorce. Her husband had left her, he had cheated on her, and Laurie was in a really, really difficult place. She'd started drinking, she was deeply depressed, and just didn't have a way forward at all. Until we started working together. And when I walked her through this exact process, it was remarkable to see the transformation. Literally a 24-year marriage that was on the verge of a divorce, completely transformed in a matter of months. Then there's my client Jenny, who once again was on the receiving end of infidelity and was in a really, really dark space. But after implementing this particular framework, within a matter of months, her husband came back and they're in a beautiful place together. Not only is the marriage thriving, but she's thriving as a person. So by the end of this video, I'm going to show you how you can take your marriage from painful disconnection to deep, loving intimacy. Now, step 1, understanding how the masculine energy thinks and feels. See, I've always said this before, men and women operate very, very differently in relationships, which is to say the masculine and the feminine energies operate very differently. And you know, men and women are completely wired differently, and it's important to acknowledge and understand those differences. If you don't understand those differences, it can cause so many problems, and because of these differences, there are so many natural misunderstandings in relationships, and those misunderstandings, when they stack and stack and stack over time, that's what leads to someone saying, look, I don't know if we're right for each other, or I want a divorce, or they want a separation, or whatever it is. Those misunderstandings play a huge part in marriages declining. And not only that, but past traumas often lead to challenges in the present because we take that pain and then we perceive the current situation through those lenses. And then that creates more of an issue and further exacerbates the differences between men and women. Now, the fundamental differences between men and women in terms of communication can be illustrated with a few simple examples. Take, for example, communication styles. Men tend to communicate in a very direct way and focus specifically on problem solving. For example, a man might want to try and offer up solutions straight away as a way to fix those problems. However, women tend to want to focus more on emotional expression and actually connection with their partner to work through those challenges. So for example, a woman might want to express her feelings about that, to share what she's going through, and to try and build that connection with their partner around this particular issue, and then be able to come up with a solution of their own in time. So 2 very different ways in which they would communicate. Secondly, emotional processing. Now, men may want to compartmentalize those emotions, or they might want to suppress them altogether and work through it in their own way, in their own time. And you'll see this where men might want to end up retreating to be able to process it in their own way and deal with individual conflicts in their own way. And then once they've actually resolved those things in their own mind, then they might want to talk about it. Whereas women typically will want to actually deal with those emotions as soon as possible and be able to talk it through and process and so on, and address those emotions as they arise. What this does is it develops a deeper connection, it develops a trust and safety emotionally, and it helps them in their own mind to be able to work through and come to a resolution. And the third difference is conflict resolution. Men might want to go through and just resolve this as quickly as possible. You might see where a man in a difficult situation that you might be having with him, you say, look, let's just move past this. Let's just move on, get on with it, and let's focus on moving forward rather than talking about those things. However, women might want to explore the underlying issues. If we say infidelity, for example, rather than just saying, oh, we want to move on and let's just move past this, they want to understand more about what the underlying issues were that may have led to those particular problems and that particular behavior. And when they're able to communicate with their partner and the other person can actually share those things, it helps them to build more, once again, emotional safety and trust. And that is extremely important in terms of being able to create that solid foundation for the future. Now, the second step to saving your marriage is to heal your inner wounds. You see, the truth is you can't fix your marriage until you've actually healed a lot of yourself. And now this isn't about blame. This is actually about empowerment. And I guess the example example that I like to use is that let's say you've got a skin problem like eczema, for example. A lot of people will go to a doctor and you'll get some steroid cream. But the actual way to actually heal a lot of those issues is actually through changing your diet and healing at a gut level and going deeper in terms of the healing process. And I know this from personal experience because I've had to deal with myself. When I dealt with the root cause and I changed my diet and so on, then that completely healed my skin in ways that I never thought I could. And the same goes for marriages. Let's say, for example, your husband goes off for a trip and you haven't heard from him for a little while. Let's say it might be a few hours or a day or whatever it may be. Now, yes, we can absolutely say that that's not courteous. However, if it's actually affecting you at a really, really deep level, that may be bringing up wounds of abandonment, for example. Let's say you had to go through that when you were younger. Let's say your father left your mum and you felt abandoned on that front. We often take those wounds and actually end up experiencing them in our romantic relationships as we get older. And that's why we actually have to heal a lot of those wounds for a couple of reasons. One is that we don't react in the way that we should do when we're actually at peace and feeling centered and grounded in ourselves. And secondly, if we hold on to those wounds, I'm a real big believer in psychosomatic illnesses and also attraction through suppressed energy. So if we have suppressed our wounds of abandonment, what will actually happen is we will attract circumstances and people that will bring out those wounds as a way for us to actually look at things, to have it staring straight in our face like a mirror, and for us to actually work through. What ends up happening is when you actually heal those deeper wounds, you effectively create a sense of peace and a sense of personal power and empowerment. And that's a beautiful thing. Not only that, you're allowing yourself to step into your feminine energy in the most magnificent way. And that only is going to create a more beautiful and loving marriage in the long run. Now, take, for example, my client Sarah, who went really, really deep into her own transformation. That was the biggest focus. When she came to me, even though she wanted to work on her marriage, she said to me, look, I feel like I've lost myself. I don't know who I am anymore. And I'm so wounded. Every day is just a constant struggle. So her priority was to heal internally within herself. And after some deep emotional clearing work that we did together, what ended up happening was she just found this whole new sense of peace and calm and equanimity that helped her to just totally shift. And then as she shifted, her husband started to notice some of those shifts and was really drawn to her and allowed that polarity between the two of them, the chemistry, to really go to a whole different level. And they are in a really beautiful space now. So healing internally is the most important part of the journey. I truly believe that. And even for my own life, the same thing occurred. When I actually started to heal me, then all the external stuff started to sort itself out as well. And I know this can be a little bit of a complicated journey. So if you are struggling and you're feeling like you need a little bit of extra support, then just click on that link below which says book a call with me. We can have a chat and I can sort of show you a few things about how you can actually move forward on that path. Now, the third step to saving your marriage is applying communication techniques that actually work. See, so many techniques that I see out there are all about manipulation techniques. Text him this, or back off so he's going to come and be drawn to you and all of that stuff. And the problem with all of that is inauthentic. I'm a huge believer in being authentic with your communication. And that's why I take people through this process where they're learning about male psychology. They're learning about actually healing themselves. And then as you work through those two areas, you've started to build the foundation so that you can actually communicate in your most authentic way. It is such a beautiful thing when you do that. And when I take my clients through this process, I'm teaching them specifically about not only the right language to use, but picking the right moments, using the right tonality, using the right body language, and so on. All of these facets of communication are absolutely crucial in order to be able to penetrate the heart of someone else, or be able to just get your message across in a way that's not misinterpreted. Once again, so many times I see people communicate one thing, but the other person's interpreting it in a completely different way. And that could be because of some of the language that was used, or sometimes we get so frustrated at our partner because they haven't been responding in the way that we want to. So we raise our tone and we think if we raise our tone, then they're going to at least pay some attention to it. But all it takes is for that, just one little, sigh, or one look in the opposite direction, or, just one little raising of the tone. And then immediately they're getting angry, they're getting annoyed, they shut down, they walk away, whatever it is. It does not take much for a blow up to occur. You have to be really, really on your game when it comes to having the right conversations. If you've found this video helpful, make sure you hit that like button below. If you want to get more videos like this, hit that subscribe button. If you've got any comments or questions, make sure you write them below. If you want to learn more about male psychology, just click this video below. I've simplified it to 11 minutes. You want to check it out. Take care, have a wonderful day.